Hello and welcome to another series of Good Design is Good Business. My name is Roger Snook. I'm your host today, and I am pleased to have two wonderful speakers on today, both Jean-Louis Marchot and Todd Donovan, who are both have wonderful presence on DeveloperWorks. Jean-Louis is a software engineer out of our Rational Canada office, and previously an IT architect with IBM's Global Services. Jean-Louis is also, as I mentioned, a DeveloperWorks contributing author, focused on software architecture, J2EE, SOA, and Agile software development practices. And also has a blog called Pragmatic Architecture, which we'll put a link to on our Good Design is Good Business page. Also is a name many of you might already recognize, and that's Todd Donovan, who's our Principal Solution Architect within our Rational Software Services division. And Todd, the reason I said you might see Todd's name as very familiar is not only does he have presence on DeveloperWorks, but he has also been the architecture development, design and construction community practice leader for a number of years. So I welcome you both to the call today. Today's call is being recorded, and this call will have both IBM folks as well as non-IBM people in attendance, and that means, of course, we will have to be very careful on discussing futures and things like that. So a brief introduction of what we're going to talk about today in relation to design management. We all know good design is good business. Design makes your software better. And, of course, it's you may have heard a few quotes in industry around, it's cheaper to use an eraser on the drawing board than it is to use a sledgehammer at the construction site. You can apply that same mantra to doing programming and making changes down the road. It's definitely cheaper to get the design and the coding done better ahead of time than it is trying to fix problems later. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Another favorite quote of mine. But bottom line, good design practices and design management here included leads to faster, better, cheaper business results, which is why we're building the software in the first place, is to drive our business. There are some reference YouTube videos also included here. Faster Design Reviews and Design Analytics are two videos that you can look at the prior version of Design Manager and see what kind of capabilities can help you, again, build your software faster, better, cheaper with good design. Again, today's webcast is being recorded, and we will open up the lines later for questions and answers. If you do have a question in the meantime, you can post that into the chat window, which is on the right-hand side of your webcast window. With that, I'm going to go ahead and transition this over to Todd Donovan. And Todd, thank you for co-presenting today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Roger. Jean-Louis and I will be passing the baton back and forth a couple times during this presentation. I'll be taking the first two sections, the introduction and the lifecycle integration. I'll then be passing on to Jean-Louis for in-context collaboration. I'll come back for lifecycle traceability, and then Jean-Louis will take us home. Oh, one thing to note is that the title here is Design Management with RSA 8.5. The focus here is not so much Rational Software Architect as it is the Design Manager extension for Rational Software Architect. So wanted to set your expectations correctly. And the design management capability, which we introduced about a year ago, is as appropriate, say, for Rational Rhapsody as it is for RSA. So if you're interested in systems engineering and you hear something here that appeals to you with respect to design management, you're not locked out. We have the same capabilities coming down the track for Rhapsody as we have for Rational Software Architect. One thing to note is that we are going to be talking about some capabilities here which have not been formally released yet. And so this disclaimer stands, is that our statements regarding our plans, directions, and intent are subject to change or withdrawal without notice at IBM's sole discretion. And because we are talking about capabilities which have not yet been formally released, that is, in the next upcoming version of Design Manager, we can't tell you when it's coming. For one thing, Jean-Louis and I are not part of the core development team, so we don't have that information. But company policy constrains us from providing that information anyway. So what is design management? It's an application lifecycle management discipline that it basically brings software and system design to an equal level of footing with the previous disciplines which have been addressed by IBM Rational's architecture lifecycle management solution. So you might have heard of our JAS products, Requirements Composer, Quality Manager, Team Concert. They were the initial three in our ALM solution, also known as CLM, Collaborative Lifecycle Management. So what we have done over the past year or so is we have appropriately lifted architecture management to be an equal partner with these. You may be familiar with Rational Software Architect and Rational Rhapsody. They are our industry-leading software and system design solutions. And what we have done is we have added server-based capabilities in the form of our Design Manager products that enhance their design capabilities with new team collaboration and lifecycle management capabilities. So here are some of the things which you can see in the current RSA and Rhapsody Design Management 4.0 betas. And if you're interested in exploring these after the session, you can go to jazz.net, download the beta software, load it on your machine, and play with it. Starting with the upper left-hand corner, going down that left column and switching over to the right, common administration with the other collaborative lifecycle management tools. Everything is managed now from one management console. More robust lifecycle integrations. So, for instance, you can take elements of RSA or Rhapsody models and robustly link them to requirements assets, quality management assets, and then also change management assets. And the linkages in the upcoming version are bidirectional. So you can do these linkages from any of the tools, and you can see the linkages from any of the tools. One thing which is a real winner to me in the 4.0 is the fact that I can actually build my models directly in the Design Manager repository. With 3.0, you would build a model, say, in Rational Software Architect or Rhapsody, and then you would publish it to the Design Manager repository for subsequent use in collaborative review. We still have that mode of operation with 4.0, but if you want to model directly into the Design Manager repository, you can do so. And one thing which is really exciting to me is that we also support version management of the models in the Design Manager repository. So you actually can have multiple people working in a Design Manager managed model, log particular pieces. Once your changes are made, save them back to the repository, do parallel development, just as if you're using the tools in their current file-based paradigms using an SCM solution such as Rational Team Concert. Another major addition in the 4.0 beta is formal impact analysis, and we'll talk more about this in subsequent slides. But we now have a built-in capability, a first-class capability, for determining what is going to be impacted among all of the artifacts that I'm linked to if, say, something in my design model changes. Would a requirement be impacted? Would a work item be impacted? Would a test case or a test plan be impacted? And to me, that's a very big winner. Moving to the right-hand column, in-context collaboration with commenting and review. This is a 3.0 capability, which we retain. It's a very nice capability because it means that you can have distributed people who perhaps do not have RSA licenses themselves who can participate in the review of RSA artifacts or Rhapsody artifacts. Centralized design repository, we've alluded to this. You can build models directly in your centralized repository. As we'll talk about later, the elements of the model are rendered in the repository as OSLC, Open Services for Lifecycle Collaboration objects, conforming to the architecture management standard. And then once they're there, you can reuse them in different models, and you can also link them to other ALM artifacts, and you can also do multi-domain reporting if you wish to do so. Searching and design reuse, a very nice capability in the 4.0 version for readily identifying, including, say, by specific types of elements, items which are of most concern to you. And then, as I alluded to before, you can actually then reuse those elements in other design models. We also include in this particular version a nice capability to create RTF documents directly in Design Manager. And then, as I mentioned, we also have improved ability to do multi-domain reporting. So if you need to create a report, for instance, which includes design elements as well as, say, requirement elements, work item elements, and quality management elements, which are related to the design elements, you can do so. Okay, next let's talk about the lifecycle integration just for a minute. And so some of you perhaps are familiar with the rational JAS-based solutions, and you're aware of the fact that we have sort of a centralized application called the JAS Team Server, which manages the other applications which are involved in a collaborative lifecycle management solution. So previously, with Design Manager 3.0, you could not have Design Manager 3.0 being owned, so to speak, by the same JAS Team Server as the other CLM tools we're using. We have improved substantially upon that with Design Manager 4.0 beta, in that now we can share the same JAS Team Server with the other CLM tools. As a matter of course, that means that you have to have, well, less server infrastructure, less admin, which is always a good thing. As the second bullet indicates, we have common user administration. You now can, if you wish, define your users once for all and use them across all of the CLM applications. And another real win, which we'll talk about in just another slide or so, is this concept of life cycle projects. With the other CLM tools, we've had this for a while, where you could once for all create a life cycle project which automatically created, for instance, a Rational Team Concert project, a Quality Manager project, a Requirements Composer project, link them together in a relatively seamless way. We have now added Design Manager into this particular paradigm, again, reducing the amount of admin overhead which exists in the overall collaborative lifecycle management solution. This screenshot is just an illustration of what we mean by design and lifecycle projects. One of the things I really like here, so for instance, if you take a look at the item which is highlighted, this is for Jean-Louis's lifecycle project. And so what he's focusing on is a project he's going to create for the quality professional, the analyst, the developer, with architecture management. So what this particular item would do is it would create a lifecycle project configuration which incorporates the capabilities of all four of the tools. There are other lifecycle project types, as you can take a look down here, which also include some aspect of architecture management. For instance, as I look toward the bottom of the list, I see one for architect and analyst. Then I also see one for architect and developer. So if you wanted to create a project, for instance, with just Rational Requirements Composer and Design Manager, you might choose the one for architect and analyst. If you wanted to create one just with Design Manager and with, say, Rational Team Concert, you would choose the project for architect and developer. Again, what we're doing here is making a very concerted effort to reduce the administrative overhead of using the tools and make it much simpler to get started. And with this, I will pass the baton to Jean-Louis. So, Jean-Louis, just bear with me.
Okay.
You are now the presenter.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So thank you, Ted. What we cover in this next section, the in-context collaboration, is really the different DM capabilities to help the different teams collaborate on design activities. So the very first capability is the ability to share designs on a centralized design management repository. This is not something new. It already existed in version 3. In the next design management release, what is improved is that you can import existing designs from Rational Software Architect, but you can also create design resources and models directly on the server, the design management server. And once you have shared your designs on the server, then the team can access the designs from a web UI, a web browser, and they can start adding comments on the design resources. And not only they can add text comments, but they can also add drawing, visual markups on the design diagrams, for instance. On the slide, we've got a sequence diagram, and the cycle, the red cycle, is not something added with PowerPoint. This is really part of design management from the drawing palette. And of course, people can answer to the different comments, just like they can have a discussion, which is captured on the design resource.
Yeah, and Jean-Louis, that I did post a link in the chat there, something similar to what you're describing. We did a YouTube video on faster design reviews, being able to use this rather than the traditional sort of back and forth, over the shoulder, especially when designers can often be in different locations sometimes. But a great way to speed up the whole design process.
Yeah, absolutely. Another addition to the next design management release is the ability to create sketches and rich text document directly on the server. So from the web UI, you can create a new sketch diagram, and you can create a rich text document. The rich text document can include links to other design resources, and for instance, you can explain what are your architectural decisions in a document, and include also diagrams directly in the document. So this is a really nice feature to be able to document designs on the server, on the design management server. Moving on to next slide, if the button works. Yeah, design reviews have been improved compared to version 3, but this is pretty similar to what you were able to do in the past. You create a review, you can add a couple of resources to that review, so the different design resources that you want to review. You also specify the different participants, people from the team that are going to be reviewing the assets, and you can manage the review, which has a life cycle. So it starts, and you can track the progress of the review during the entire review life cycle. And when everyone completes the review, then the review is over and captured on the design management server for references later on. Dashboards are not new either. They were already there in design management version 3. Some new widgets have been added to customize dashboards. And bottom line, a dashboard is really helpful to capture project information on a central web page. And so you've got two different dashboards that you can use, project dashboards for the whole team. You can also create a personal dashboard to gather your own information on a project. And you can decide to share your personal dashboard with others if you want to do so. On a dashboard, you can have DM-specific, design management-specific information. But if you are in a CLM environment, you can also mix your design information with requirement information, quality management information, and RTC team concert tasks information or project progress on your dashboard. And everything on a dashboard is real-time information extracted from the design management or other CLM repositories.
Jean-Louis, Stephen Hollader asked the question, is the review lifecycle itself customizable?
The lifecycle itself is not customizable, as far as I know, in the current beta release.
Yes.
But for everything that does not exist yet, I encourage people to access, to go to jazz.net, and everyone can submit enhancement requests. So if you feel like something should really be part of the DM Design Management Next release, you can contribute to the product from jazz.net.
And Jean-Louis, one thing to note is the fourth bullet. You can actually take a link item, you can actually take a review item in Design Manager and link it to a team concert work item if you need to take advantage of the more robust workflow management capabilities that the team concert work item would offer.
Absolutely, and this is new in the beta release. And because in team concert work items, you also have approvals. You can mix the two of them, the approval at a project level and the approval at the design management level. Moving on to slide number 14, new capability in design management. Todd already talked about it before, is the configuration management capability. This is to support parallel development. You can create multiple streams. So basically, you have multiple workspaces. You can have one workspace for a given team, one other workspace for another team. Each team work in isolation from the other, and then you can deliver the different changes. You can merge the stream, compare the different versions. So we do have versioning now in design management. And as any configuration management tool, when you modify something, it creates a change set, and before you commit your changes, nobody can see them. So you do not impact other project members as long as you do not deliver the changes. Moving on to the next capability. Reporting. So we've got two different reporting approaches in design management. One is to create documents out of the design management repository. So you can extract a couple of information from the design management server, like all the different classes, some diagrams, all the different information stored in the design management server. You can also, so to create a report, you don't need an external tool. Design management reporting comes with a couple of predefined templates, and you reuse those templates from the design management server to create a report. If you want to go one step further, then you need to have a rational publishing engine license, and you can create additional templates and import those templates in design management. As Todd mentioned at the very beginning, you can, with a rational publishing engine template, you can create a report that extracts data from design management, but also requirement management, quality management, and change and configuration management repositories. So you can create reports through the whole life cycle. In the next slide, I gathered some information on additional capabilities. I'm going to go very quickly on those one, but we could have additional sessions to deep dive on some of them. With Design Management 4, or the next release, the beta release, you can extend the design management capabilities with custom domains. So you can create your own domains to document your business design. So custom domains can be created on anything, and we provide an example on custom domain part of DM. The example is a library example where out of the box you've got different profiles to create authors, books, and create the modeling around a library. We have improved the search capabilities. In addition to being able to search with keywords, you can also create extensive queries on design resources. So as an example, you can search for all the different interfaces in your design management repository, or you can search for a specific type of stereotype or a specific method name, and you can even search on OSLC links. So you have an extensive graphical environment to create queries, and the queries are then stored in design management, and you can leverage those queries to find information from the repository. You can even reuse those queries in the dashboard. So you can expose the result of a query as a widget on a dashboard. With the next design management query, the third bullet point, you can also create transformation from rational software architect client, but the transformation will run on the information stored in the server repository. So you can create a transformation locally which extracts the information from the server. And as Todd will cover in a couple of slides, you can create extensive impact analysis diagrams from any design management resource. One other aspect that we don't really cover in the slide, but we could have a session on that later on, is the rational software architect design management extension. So almost everything we've seen in the slides so far can be done from the web UI, obviously, but also from the Eclipse client with the design management extension. So you can use the Eclipse client to access the design management repository and add new model elements, search, go through the different diagrams, the comments, add new comments, everything. And now I will make you presenter, Todd. I will try at least.
Thank you, Jean-Louis. Yes, I'm going to discuss briefly the lifecycle traceability capabilities of the Design Manager application. Many of you may have heard of open services for lifecycle collaboration. This is an open industry effort to define a set of reusable specifications for managing the interchange of information between software development tools. We're also working, the OSLC consortium is also working to extend this into other domains, for instance, to create linkages between product management capabilities, such as electronics and automotive, and software development. As it indicates here, there's over 400 registered community members, 34 different organizations participate, and as I indicated, we're pulling in interest from a wide range of domains, traditional software development, as well as other domains, as I mentioned before, such as product development. An interesting aspect of the specifications for OSLC is they are developed on the basis of user scenarios. So we don't necessarily specify the world, but we focus on what is needed in the OSLC specifications to address common user scenarios for cross-domain data access, querying, and such as that. The interesting aspect about this is that over the past couple of years or so, the specifications have been extended to include specifications for interfaces for architecture management. As you might suspect, based upon the pace at which our original OSLC-enabled tools came out, the original domains which were supported included change management, requirements management, and quality management. But there was always the understanding that additional domains were needed, and so architecture management has now come to the fore. And so what the OSLC capabilities enable us to do is to incorporate design management robustly into full lifecycle traceabilities. As this diagram indicates, via OSLC, you can do things such as take RSA models and Rhapsody models when enhanced with the Design Manager capabilities and link them to requirements which are managed by Requirements Composer or DOORS. You also have the ability to associate design elements with various flavors of work items, which are managed by tools such as Rational Team Concert. And you also have the ability to establish relationships between design elements and quality management items, such as test plans and test cases. Now, this diagram that we're showing right here, it is architecture management centric, but as you would suspect, we also support linkages between all the other domains as well. Change management links to quality management, links to requirements, etc. And here's some questions which the linkability can help you address. So, iteration planning. Design work can be an important input into iteration planning. So now this enables project managers to begin to incorporate design work into their iteration planning. Further, linkability between requirements and design. How can I do impact analyses across those? This enables you to do that. I have developers who perhaps are focused on their particular work items. How can they identify design elements which are germane for their particular assigned work items? This enables them to do that. And clearly, how can I ensure traceability across the entire life cycle? Link all of the domains together using tools that are enabled with OSLC. One capability with which I was very excited when I first got wind of what we were doing with DM 4.0 beta is what we're looking at right here, which is impact analysis from a design-centric point of view. So what we can do, for instance, in this particular diagram, as it indicates, you can include both design elements in the impact analysis and also elements which are linked in from other OSLC-enabled repositories. So, for instance, if I wanted to focus on a particular, say, interface that perhaps maybe I have 15 different developers or 15 different architects who are building SOA models, and they have various service interfaces defined. And what I want to do is I want to identify all of the services that could possibly be impacted if I change a particular interface. You can do that with the impact analysis capabilities of Design Manager. So you're not limited, as you are, say, with Rational Software Architect, to doing an impact analysis within a given model or a given project or a given workspace, but you can do a pervasive impact analysis across all of the assets that are managed within your requirements, your Design Manager repository. And also, you're able to do an impact analysis which goes out to the OSLC items which are directly linked to your Design Manager elements. To facilitate the impact analysis, we create what's referred to as an analysis configuration. As the bullet indicates, this defines the parameters for the analysis, such as what type of linkages do I want to consider. Also gives you the ability to control how far out from my central element do I want to go in my impact analysis. Do I want to take a look at elements that I depend upon, elements that depend upon me, or both? And you can define an analysis configuration once for all, so to speak, and reuse it pervasively to support a number of impact analyses. Another interesting capability, let's say that you want to do the impact analysis and then at some point in time maybe take a snapshot of the diagram which is being created. If you wish, you can create an impact analysis which captures a certain amount of information, these types of linkages, this level of depth and such. And if it's too much information, then you can simply prune the tree, so to speak, and focus on the pieces of the impact analysis that are most germane for you. And Jean-Louis is going to take us home. Jean-Louis, let me pass the baton back to you.
I think I got it. So, wow. There is a yellow stuff on my screen. I don't know about yours, but it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, I was just highlighting the additional value that's we've built in, because I think people may overlook that we do provide some wonderful value in training material.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Roger. So I just wanted to cover briefly the Money That Matters 2012. So Money That Matters it contains, regarding to design management, there are three different aspects related to Money That Matters. First, design management contains a Money That Matters sample application. So out of the box, when you install DM, design management, you can push a button and the server will deploy a project for you. And this is the Jackie banking sample application. Well, that project contains a number of artifacts that you can leverage. You can test the different DM capabilities through this sample application, and everything is pre-configured for you. If you install design management in a CLM environment with requirement management, quality management, and change and configuration management, then the Money That Matters sample app is also linked to a couple of assets from the Lifecycle application. So we provide a rich set of examples to work with and to try out the design management server capabilities. The second aspect of the money that matters is the scenario. We have documented a full lifecycle scenario on jazz.net, which is an agile at scale scenario where we documented all the different steps during a sprint that a typical team will go through in a CLM, in a collaborative lifecycle management environment. So there are tasks and activities for the analyst, the business analyst, for the Scrum Master, for the architect, the developers, the testers, and a couple of others. I don't remember top of my head. This scenario is based on the Money That Matters sample application that I mentioned before. So if you have the application installed, then you can go through the scenario and experiment the scenario on your server. And the scenario description or documentation is available from jazz.net, and there is a link on the slide that will redirect you on the home page of the scenario. And the third aspect regarding design management and Money That Matters is the self-paced training that is part of the Design Management Next release. The self-paced training is based on the Money That Matters scenario, and it leverages the Money That Matter sample application. So if you do have a design management server available, then from the design management help, you can go through the self-paced training and learn about design management and the different design management capabilities from the free self-paced training. A brief summary before we start the Q&A session. So design management is really part of the application lifecycle management discipline. It complements the requirement management, quality management, and change management capabilities. From an IBM offering point of view, the design management offering can integrate with requirement management and with the CLM offering. So as an example, you can have Rational Requirement Composer, you can have Rational Quality Manager, and Rational Team Concert, and you install the design management in addition to those three offerings, and you have a full CLM offering with full lifecycle integration. Everything, the integration itself is based on OSLC, just like Todd mentioned before. And the design management capabilities extend what already exists in Rational Software Architect or Rational Rhapsody. The last slide is really some additional information. If you want to download the beta version of design management or any other CLM product, you can go on jazz.net, and from the home page, you're going to have a link to the design part of it. The design part of CLM contains the product bits, but also some articles, demos, the help, which is still on beta help under development. So you can access all that and try out the design management traceability. As far as I remember, this is the last one. So I'm going to give back control to you, Roger.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and open the lines. And before I do that, I will mention you may have to hit *6 or use your physical mute button to just come off of mute. But give us a sound check first, and we'll see. So give me a moment just to open up the lines.
All participants are now in interactive talk mode.
Okay, we should be in interactive talk mode, and I know there are a few questions already posted in the chat, and one by Gary was, Gary Zion, can a user create a design model in RSA and then share upload to Design Manager, and then conversely, can one start out and create an architectural diagram in Design Manager and download that into the RSA space to create a UML and or topology model to work in that mode? Does that accurately capture that, Gary?
Yes.
Should I start or?
Please, yes.
Okay. Basically, there are two different modes to work with design management. You can choose to have your design assets managed outside of design management, of the design management server. So if you do so, you have everything in RSA, for instance. You need to upload, and each time you modify something, you do it from the RSA environment. So it's external to design management, but published on the design management server. The other approach is to manage everything within the design management server. When you do so, then you can modify the resources from a web interface directly on the design management server, but you can also modify the resources from the Rational Software Architect client. The thing is, from the RSA client, you've got a new view now, a view to, it's called the design repository view. So it lets you access.
Hey, Jean-Louis, hold on just a second. I'm just going to mute the other lines. Hold on.
Okay.
All participants in listen-only mode.
Okay, go ahead, Jean-Louis. Jean-Louis, you may need to *6 just to come off of mute.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, great.
Okay, thanks. So what I was saying is that when everything is managed on the design management server, if you're using RSA, so from the client, you've got a new view which lets you access the design management resources. And from that new view, you can add new diagrams, new design UML classes, UML element methods, or whatever. You can add everything that you used to do in RSA before. But instead of being added locally, it is automatically added on the server when you commit your changes. So what Gary was asking in the chat is not something you can really do. You cannot really transform a design resource, a design management resource, into a local RSA project. But from an RSA environment locally on an Eclipse client, you can keep working on the design resources and add new stuff from your Eclipse client.
Great. And Gary, if you had any follow-up questions or additional questions, or for anyone that had questions, go ahead and hit *6. All lines were muted earlier, so to eliminate some of the background noise. So, Gary?
And this could be a topic in itself. This could be a topic in itself regarding the for a next session, the way you work with a local environment with a design management server, because there are a lot of different capabilities that you can leverage to collaborate from the server and from the local Eclipse client.
Yes, Gary, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm just kind of thinking this through, because sometimes we start out scoping things out and, we have nobody to share it with, so we'll start out locally. And then in that use case, then we'd say, okay, we got enough, let's upload it so we can collaborate. And that, you collaborate and you hit a certain point, and what I'm thinking on is, okay, now we have a snapshot of something that we want to save as an asset. Today we can save it, the EMX files, et cetera, to IRAM. That's the kind of scenario I was getting at, where you hit a certain point, you want to take a snapshot of all of this stuff and put it on something like IRAM, so then you can load it in later. Okay,
two different things regarding your question. In the design management server, you can have you can create snapshots as well. You don't need to. So there is also this ability on the design management server. You can create a baseline and manage the different baseline, or store they are automatically stored, obviously. The other thing, you can also, from RSA, from the Eclipse client, you can create a new model locally. You do not share it with anyone. You keep working in your local environment in an EMX file as usual. And where you're ready to share your new stuff, then there's a way to push what you've got locally from RSA to the design management project. So even if the project already exists, it can be enriched later on by local contribution from different team members. Does that answer the question, more or less?
All right, so there are a number of other questions here. I know Paulo Neto asks regarding SEM capability, would it be possible that two people working in the same workspace change the same model element at the same time?
No, because when you modify something, there's a lock on the resource. So the first one modifying, if you are on the same workspace, the same stream, the first one modifying the resource will lock it, and it is unlocked only when you commit your changes. So then the other person can take the resource and modify it, but it's done in a sequence.
All right, and Todd mentions, and Todd, I don't know if you're on mute yet, but he does mention that it supports difference and merge of those repository-based assets. So
yeah, so the model for parallel development is very similar to what you would have, for instance, if you are using just regular RSA with a tool like Rational Team Concert. So we do support, for instance, differencing and merge capabilities of repository-based assets.
Excellent. There was a suggestion, and I know this has been a best practice that we've done in the past internally, but we could also offer that through this Good Design is Good Business bridge to our customers as well, is having a study group, so to speak. I know Daniel mentioned that it would be good to have a little bit of a hands-on session to work with Design Manager, including some scenarios. If you have any other ideas like that, I did post a survey link. I'll repost that here in just a second, but we just have 5 questions on the survey, and if you have other ideas of other topics that you'd like to do, perhaps in a future chat, we'd welcome that as well. So if you do want something of that sort, a study group to do some hands-on exercises with the beta or perhaps with the production version, and please make sure you put that into the survey. Any other questions? We have about 5 minutes left for today's call. Again, if you're on mute, hit *6 to come off of mute to ask your question.
Hey, Roger.
Actually, hey,
Steve. When you say resource, I'm used to thinking of resource as a physical resource. Is it a different concept now?
A resource is a design element. And the reason why we use intensively the resource keyword is because everything is stored on the design management server as a web resource, an RDF.
Okay, so it's really, it's a much broader interpretation of the word resource now.
Yeah, sorry about that. But when we talk about design management and we use the word resource, it is a design element. So it could be a diagram, it could be a rich text document, it could be a class, it could be a review. Everything stored on the design management server that you can link to.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining. Thanks, Steve. I was good to have you. Any other questions for Todd or Jean-Louis in the 4 minutes we have left? I know some of Joe Clark, his questions were answered in the chat, it looked like. But Joe, if you had any other remaining questions, please know here. And I will say going once, twice, 3 times for questions. Excellent. Well, Jean-Louis and Todd, thank you so much for your insight here. I think some good follow-up work, as we had discussed a couple months ago on a study group on Design Manager, would be in order. So I look forward to working with you on delivering something like that to this or a potential broader audience. And with that, I conclude today's call. Thank you all for your participation. Please be sure to do the survey and visit us back on Good Design is Good Business. If you haven't joined that community yet, please do so to stay in touch with future events we have around these and similar topics around good design. Thank you and have a great day.